History is not the solid story we believe it to be. In your hands right now, you could be holding an object that shatters our entire understanding of the past. These are not simple relics. They are enigmatic artifacts, deliberate puzzles left behind that challenge the accepted timeline of human civilization. By the end of this journey, you will see the familiar narrative of history in a completely new light. We will uncover a 2,000-year-old computer, a map that should have been impossible to draw, and a hammer found sealed in stone from an age before humans walked the earth. Each discovery forces us to ask a difficult question. How much of our past have we gotten wrong? The Antikythera Mechanism was recovered from the deep, encrusted and corroded after 2,000 years on the seafloor. When researchers finally cleared away the calcified layers, they were not looking at a simple statue or a common pot. They were staring at a complex clockwork of interlocking bronze gears, a device of breathtaking mechanical genius. This was not just a tool, it was a predictive engine. Its precisely cut gears could calculate the movements of the sun and the moon, predict lunar and solar eclipses, and even track the cycles of the ancient Olympic Games. This level of engineering, from around 100 years before the Common Era, rivals the intricate mechanical clocks of 18th century Europe. The gap in time is staggering. It forces a profound question. If the ancient Greeks possessed knowledge this sophisticated, what happened to it? The mechanism stands as a silent witness to a strand of technological prowess that was seemingly lost, forgotten in the depths for centuries. It suggests that our timeline of scientific progress is not a simple, steady climb, but a story with peaks and valleys, with entire chapters of innovation perhaps wiped clean by the passage of time. This single artifact, a marvel of metal and mathematics, completely redefines our perception of ancient intellect. From a device that charted the heavens, we turn to an object that maps the earth in a way that should have been utterly impossible. It is a simple object, a small clay jar no larger than a hand. But inside this unassuming vessel from ancient Mesopotamia lies a secret that seems to defy time itself. Dated to the Parthian period, over 2,000 years ago, the jar contains a copper cylinder and within that an iron rod. If you were to fill it with an acidic liquid, something as common as vinegar or wine, this assembly would do something extraordinary. It would generate a small but measurable electric current. We know it today as the Baghdad Battery. The true purpose of this ancient cell remains one of history's quietest debates. Was it used for electroplating, to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto other objects? Some experiments have shown this is possible. Or was its function more mystical, perhaps creating a faint, tingling sensation for religious rituals, a spark of the divine held in the palm of a priest's hand? We may never know for certain, but its mere existence sends a ripple through our understanding. This artifact implies a working knowledge of electrical principles a full millennium and a half before scientists like Galvani and Volta would begin their foundational experiments in Europe. It challenges the comforting, linear narrative of technological progress we often cling to. We imagine discovery as a straight line, one innovation building directly upon the last. But the Baghdad Battery suggests a different story, one of isolated sparks of genius that may have flickered and died, their potential never fully realized or passed down. It asks us a profound question. Could this humble jar be a fragment of a lost chapter in science, a path of experimentation that simply went dark, buried by the sands of time and forgotten wars? From the possibility of ancient power contained in clay, we journey to a document that reveals a world no one should have been able to see. The Piri Reis Map is a sheepskin parchment that should not exist as it does. Created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, it is not merely a chart of the known Mediterranean. Its lower section depicts a landmass that bears a startling resemblance to the northern coastline of Antarctica, a continent that would remain hidden from the rest of the world for over 300 more years. This is not the frozen, ice-locked continent we know today. The map shows it free of its immense glacial covering, a geographic reality that has not existed for millions of years. The accuracy, when compared to modern seismic surveys of the bedrock beneath the Antarctic ice, is deeply unsettling. How could a 16th century admiral have accessed such impossible knowledge? Reis himself noted in the margins that he compiled his work from older source maps, including some that dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. This admission points to a terrifying possibility. The information must have originated from a seafaring civilization possessing navigational and cartographic skills that rival our own, a culture that explored the entire globe in a distant prehistorical epoch. Their maps or copies of them somehow survived through the ages in libraries like the one at Alexandria, only to be lost again, leaving behind this single, cryptic copy as proof of their journey. This single piece of parchment challenges not just the timeline of exploration, but the entire story of human civilization, suggesting a cycle of rise and catastrophic fall that we have only just begun to suspect. If ancient mariners could map the world with such precision, what other journeys did they undertake? Deep within the river deltas of Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres lie scattered as if abandoned by giants. These are not rough-hewn rocks, they are monumental sculptures, some reaching over 6 feet in diameter and weighing many tons, carved with a precision that borders on the impossible. Crafted by a pre-Columbian culture over 1,000 years ago, their surfaces are unnervingly smooth, their shapes approaching geometric perfection. The effort involved is almost beyond comprehension. Without metal tools, using only stone hammers and abrasive sands, these ancient artisans somehow shaped granite boulders into near-perfect spheres. The question of how they achieved this is only the beginning. The greater mystery is why. Why would a society without a written language we can decipher dedicate such immense labor to creating these objects? Some theorize they were astronomical markers aligned with celestial bodies. Others believe they denoted social status, placed near the homes of chiefs. Yet their uniformity across a vast landscape suggests a shared purpose, a silent language of form and placement that we can no longer understand. Were they a map of the stars, a representation of gods, or perhaps a calendar carved in stone? The message they were meant to convey is lost, leaving only the spheres themselves as a testament to a sophisticated and organized society whose priorities and knowledge we can only guess at. They stand as a reminder that advanced understanding can manifest in ways that leave no written manual, only physical puzzles for future generations to solve. From these enigmatic forms rooted in the earth, we now turn to an object that seems to defy the very laws of physics. Locked away in a vault at Yale University is a book that refuses to be read. The Voynich Manuscript is a thick codex of over 200 pages, each one a testament to profound and frustrating mystery. Written in the early 15th century, its pages are filled from edge to edge with graceful, looping characters of an alphabet that matches no known language on Earth. This is not a simple cipher that codebreakers can crack. It is a complete and complex script with its own rules of grammar and syntax, a language that has stood completely silent against every attempt to understand it, from top military cryptographers to advanced artificial intelligence. But the text is only half the puzzle. The vellum pages are illustrated with drawings that are somehow even more baffling. There are plants with impossible leaves and roots, botanical specimens that bear no relation to any species in our world. There are intricate astrological charts featuring unknown constellations swirling in unfamiliar skies. Most haunting are the biological sections, which depict tiny, naked women bathing in and connecting to a system of green, fluid-filled pipes that seems to suggest a strange, alchemical biology. The cumulative effect is deeply unsettling. It feels like a textbook of natural philosophy, but for a world that is not our own. For centuries, the greatest minds have asked the same simple, unanswerable question. What is it? The most tempting theory is that it is an elaborate and expensive hoax, a meaningless creation designed to fool a wealthy patron. Yet the statistical structure of the writing shows patterns consistent with a real language, not random gibberish. The effort involved in creating hundreds of pages of coherent, patterned text for a mere prank seems unimaginable. This leads to a more profound possibility. Is it the sole surviving record of a lost culture, its language and world you completely erased from history? Or could it be something even stranger, a treatise on knowledge from a perspective so alien we lack the very framework to comprehend it? The Voynich Manuscript is more than just an unsolved puzzle. It is a stark, physical reminder of the vast gaps in our historical record. It forces us to confront the terrifying idea that entire systems of thought, complete philosophies of science and nature, could have risen, flourished, and then vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a single, indecipherable whisper on a page. It challenges our faith in the permanence of knowledge itself. While this manuscript represents a mystery of ink and vellum, our next discovery is carved from a material far older and more enigmatic. The London hammer is an object that should not be. Discovered in 1936 near the town of London, Texas, it was found encased in a solid lump of Cretaceous rock, a geological formation dating back over 100 million years. The hammer itself is a simple tool, a wooden handle attached to an iron head, but its context defies all logic. If the rock around it is truly that ancient, then this human artifact was sealed in stone millions of years before the first humans are supposed to have walked the earth. Mainstream science offers a counter-explanation, suggesting the hammer is a more recent miner's tool that became enveloped by a hard concretion of limestone minerals, a process that can happen relatively quickly in certain conditions. Yet the debate rages on. Could this be a bizarre geological fluke, or is it something far more profound? This single, anachronistic tool forces a radical line of questioning. What if human civilization is not a singular, linear ascent, but a cycle of rise and catastrophic fall? The idea that an advanced culture could have existed in the deep past, only to be wiped clean by a global cataclysm, leaving behind only the most durable and cryptic of fragments, moves from science fiction into the realm of a haunting possibility. This hammer, seemingly lost by a worker in a time before time, challenges the very bedrock of our historical and evolutionary timeline. It suggests our world may be much older and our story far more complex than we have ever dared to believe. From this lone tool out of place, we turn to an entire site that pushes the origins of human civilization back into a shadowy and distant past. The foundations of civilization itself are called into question by a windswept hill in modern-day Turkey. Göbekli Tepe is not a city or a fortress, but a temple complex of staggering scale and sophistication. Its construction began around 9,600 years before the Common Era, a date that is almost incomprehensible. This was a time 6,000 years before the great stones of Stonehenge were raised, and long before humanity had even invented pottery or writing. What stands there are not simple huts, but massive T-shaped pillars of stone, many weighing over 10 tons, arranged in great stone circles. These pillars are not crude monoliths. They are masterpieces of prehistoric art, covered in intricate, finely carved reliefs of animals, from scorpions and foxes to lions and vultures. The sheer ambition of the project is breathtaking, but the true mystery lies not in the stones themselves, but in the hands that carved them. This monumental complex was built by hunter-gatherers. This single fact shatters one of the most fundamental pillars of our historical narrative. For decades, we were taught a simple story. Humanity first learned to farm, which created a stable food surplus. This surplus allowed people to settle in one place, which led to complex society, social stratification, and organized religion. Only then, the theory went, could humanity muster the resources and leadership to build something as grand as a temple? Göbekli Tepe turns this entire sequence on its head. Here, it seems, the temple came first. Who was the visionary that organized this decades-long project? What powerful belief system could compel nomadic bands of people to come together, to dedicate generations of backbreaking labor to quarry, transport, and erect these colossal pillars? The site suggests a level of social organization and spiritual sophistication that we never attributed to our prehistoric ancestors. It forces us to reconsider their capabilities entirely. They were not simple brutes struggling for survival. They were architects, artists, and astronomers capable of a shared vision that transcended individual tribes. Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, monumental question mark. It hints at a much more complex and interconnected ancient world, a world where the impulse to build, to create, and to worship may have been the very spark that eventually led to the birth of agriculture and settled life, not the result of it. If such a sophisticated culture could exist at the very dawn of our history, what other centers of civilization might have risen, only to be lost to time, their stories buried beneath the soil or perhaps even hidden beneath the waves? Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, the ocean floor holds a secret that divides geologists and archaeologists. Lying deep beneath the waves is a colossal, stepped structure known as the Yonaguni Monument. From above, it looks like a vast, sunken pyramid, a series of massive stone terraces descending into the abyss. Its features are unnervingly precise. There are what appear to be wide, flat platforms, sharp, 90-degree angles on corners, and perfectly straight, narrow channels that run along the rock. Most striking are the two massive, monolithic pillars that stand near the structure, and the sheer, smooth face of what looks like a carved, humanoid visage staring out from the stone. The entire complex is immense, larger than many of the Great Pyramids, and it rests in waters that were last above sea level at the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. This single fact is the core of the enigma. If these features are natural, they represent one of the most spectacular and geometrically regular geological accidents on the planet. If they are artificial, then our timeline of advanced human construction is missing a foundational chapter. The debate hinges on this very question. Skeptics point to the region's unique sandstone, which can fracture along straight plains and produce flat surfaces through natural weathering. They argue that the relentless power of ocean currents could, over millennia, carve what only appear to be steps and platforms. Yet, those who have dived the site counter with details that defy simple explanation. They point to a triangular opening that seems deliberately cut, a tunnel that bores straight through the rock, and the sheer concentration of so many right angles and parallel lines in one location. The two towering pillars, they argue, look less like natural rock formations and more like the supporting columns of a grand, collapsed gateway. The possibility that this is the work of human hands opens a door to a lost world. Could Yonaguni be a remnant of a forgotten Pacific civilization, perhaps the source of the legend of Mu, a land said to have sunk beneath the waves in a cataclysm? If so, the builders were not primitive tribes. They were master architects who moved and shaped stone on a monumental scale at a time when much of the world's coastlines were dry land. This underwater labyrinth forces us to confront a history submerged, not by sand, but by rising seas. It suggests that the most telling ruins of our deepest past may not be on the continents we inhabit today, but silently waiting on the dark, forgotten shelves of our own world. From a civilization potentially lost to the sea, we now examine an object of such legendary resilience that its very existence defies the destructive nature of time itself. Standing in the heart of India, a 23-foot-tall iron pillar has defied the elements for over 1,600 years. Cast from a single, massive piece of wrought iron during the 4th century, the Iron Pillar of Delhi should be a crumbling, rusted relic. Yet its surface remains remarkably smooth, showing only the faintest patina where countless hands have touched it. This is not a matter of luck or a dry climate. Modern metallurgical analysis has revealed the pillar's secret. Its ancient creators, through a process we are only now understanding, forged the iron with an unusually high phosphorus content and a very low sulfur content. Over time, this specific recipe allowed a thin, protective film to form on the metal, a passive layer that actively shields the pillar from the corrosive effects of water and air. This is not primitive blacksmithing. It is a sophisticated, almost alchemical mastery of materials science, achieved centuries before the Industrial Revolution. The technological skill required to produce such a large, pure iron object alone is staggering, but to imbue it with a self-protecting quality that lasts for millennia is a feat that modern engineers still study with a sense of awe. The pillar stands as a silent, enduring challenge to our assumptions about ancient technological progress. It forces us to ask how a culture, over 1.5 millennia ago, possessed knowledge of alloy composition and protective patinas that we would only rediscover in the modern age. Was this the result of generations of accumulated, hands-on experimentation, a secret formula passed down through guilds of master metalworkers, or could it point to an even more advanced and now lost understanding of chemistry? This monument is more than a curiosity. It is a physical testament to a forgotten pinnacle of engineering, a durable echo from a past that was far more capable than we often give it credit for. From this indestructible proof of ancient genius, we are drawn to a different kind of mystery, one not of enduring strength, but of inexplicable and potentially harnessed energy. Scattered across the high, arid plains of Peru, a sprawling gallery of giants sleeps in the desert. These are the Nazca Lines, a collection of hundreds of immense geoglyphs etched into the dark, stony ground. From the earth, they appear as little more than shallow grooves, but from the vantage point of the sky, their true majesty is revealed. A colossal hummingbird, its wings outstretched over the sand. A massive spider, its legs perfectly proportioned. A winding monkey with a spiraling tail. These are not small sketches. Some figures stretch for over 600 feet, their lines running perfectly straight for miles across the rugged terrain. Created by the Nazca culture over a 1,000-year period beginning around 500 years before the Common Era, the sheer scale of their ambition is matched only by the depth of their mystery. How did a people without flight, without advanced machinery, design and execute such precise, monumental artworks intended for a viewer in the sky? The process itself was deceptively simple. The dark, sun-baked surface of the desert pavement was removed, revealing the lighter-colored sand beneath. This created a stark contrast that has endured for centuries. But the design phase, the act of scaling up a small sketch into a perfect geometric form visible from thousands of feet in the air, required a form of knowledge we are still struggling to comprehend. It implies a masterful understanding of surveying and projective geometry, an ability to plot immense points on a landscape with nothing but simple tools and an unwavering vision. The purpose behind this immense labor is the central enigma. Were these vast drawings a celestial calendar, their lines pointing to the risings and settings of the sun, moon, and stars, marking seasons for a society dependent on agriculture? Or were they sacred pathways walked by priests during rituals to summon life, giving water from the parched earth? The most tantalizing theory suggests they were messages, not for humans, but for the gods themselves, left as permanent offerings on a colossal canvas in the hope of divine favor. Perhaps they were even landing markers for celestial visitors, a notion that, while speculative, speaks to the otherworldly feeling they evoke. The Nazca Lines force us to reconsider the relationship between ancient peoples and their landscape. They transformed their entire world into a sacred space, a temple without walls, where the very ground beneath their feet became a medium for communication with the heavens. Their silent, sprawling forms ask us a profound question. What powerful belief could drive a civilization to dedicate generations to a project whose full splendor they could never physically behold? They created art for an audience they could only imagine, leaving behind a puzzle that continues to hover between the earth and the sky. This human desire to map our world and connect it to the cosmos finds a different and even more precise expression in an object that seems to have fallen from the stars themselves. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, a stone relief carved into a shadowy wall presents an image that feels strangely out of time. It shows a large, bulbous object, elongated and rounded at one end, held aloft by a supporting pillar. Inside this transparent vessel, a snake extends its full length, head pointed toward one end. This serpentine form is connected by a cable to a box, upon which a baboon-like god sits, and the entire pillar is held by a towering figure. To modern eyes, the resemblance is startling. It looks for all the world like a giant, ancient light bulb. The snake within mimics the glowing filament of an incandescent bulb. The box could be a power source, and the pillar bears an uncanny similarity to a high-voltage insulator. This interpretation is fiercely debated. Mainstream archaeology identifies the scene as a symbolic representation of a mythological event, showing the creation of life from a lotus flower and the cosmic snake. Yet the visual parallel to a Crookes tube, an early experimental electrical light from the 19th century, is difficult to ignore. Could this be a coincidence of artistic design, or does it hint at something more profound? The carving forces us to confront a fundamental question about how we read the past. Are we too quick to dismiss literal interpretations of ancient art in favor of purely symbolic ones? If this is indeed a depiction of technology, however stylized, it suggests the priests of ancient Egypt might have harnessed a form of electrical illumination, perhaps using primitive batteries similar to the Baghdad Battery to create a dazzling, divine light within their darkest temple chambers. This single relief illuminates the vast gap between our modern assumptions and the enigmatic records left behind. It stands as a testament to the idea that ancient knowledge may not have been lost in a single cataclysm, but slowly faded away, its practical applications forgotten until only the symbolic imagery remained, a ghost of a technology we are only now rediscovering. From this controversial carving hinting at harnessed power, we now examine an object carved with a precision that should have been utterly impossible for its time. The flawless surface of the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull captures the light and the imagination in equal measure. This life-sized carving from a single block of clear quartz is a masterpiece of impossible artistry. Its proportions are anatomically perfect, its jawbone detachable, and every detail suggests a profound understanding of human anatomy. But the true mystery lies in its creation. It was carved against the natural grain of the crystal, a technique that modern lapidary experts state should have shattered the entire block without the use of contemporary tools like powered diamond-tipped drills. Such a process would require not just skill, but an almost supernatural patience, a method of grinding and polishing that could have taken generations to complete. The origins of the skull are as murky as its crystal is clear. It was brought to public attention in the 1920s by adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges, who claimed his daughter discovered it in a Maya temple in Belize. This has led to romantic speculation that it is a relic of a lost civilization, perhaps even the legendary Atlantis, a physical fragment of a world that vanished beneath the waves. Skeptics, however, point to detailed analysis suggesting it was crafted in the 19th or early 20th century in Europe, possibly as an elaborate hoax. Yet, even if it is a modern creation, the question of how it was made remains. The skill required to produce such an object without leaving any telltale marks of modern machinery is itself a form of lost knowledge. If it is genuinely ancient, then its existence rewrites the history of art and technology in the Americas. What belief system, what cultural imperative could have driven a people to dedicate centuries of labor to the creation of a single, perfect object? Was it a tool for divination, a repository of knowledge, or a representation of a god? The skull offers no answers, only its own silent, perfect beauty. It stands as a symbol of the ultimate fusion of art and enigma, an object that pushes the very boundaries of what we believe was possible in the ancient world. This pursuit of perfection in stone leads us to another site, where the sheer scale of construction defies all conventional explanation. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent, mountainous question against the desert sky. Its sheer scale is staggering, a structure composed of over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing several tons, fitted together with a precision that defies the era of its creation. But the true mystery is not just its size, it is the terrifying accuracy embedded in every measurement. The pyramid is aligned to true north with a margin of error of just 1/15 of a single degree, an orientation more precise than that of the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London, built thousands of years later. How could a Bronze Age society achieve such perfect astronomical alignment? The enigma deepens when you examine its proportions. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 pi, a fundamental mathematical constant. It is as if the builders encoded a deep understanding of the relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter into the very geometry of a square-based pyramid. The conventional explanation tells us it was built for the pharaoh Khufu using copper chisels, ropes, and immense earthen ramps. Yet this story begins to fray under scrutiny. The logistical challenge of quarrying, transporting across the Nile, and lifting these colossal stones into place within a single pharaoh's lifetime seems almost superhuman. The wear on copper tools alone would have been immense, requiring an industrial-scale operation to continuously sharpen and replace them. The ramp theory, while logical, presents its own colossal problems. A ramp to reach the pyramid's summit would have required almost as much material as the pyramid itself, and no archaeological evidence for such a structure has ever been found. This forces a haunting alternative question. Were the builders of the Great Pyramid working with a level of knowledge we have since forgotten? Could the pyramid be a repository of advanced science, a legacy from a much older, perhaps lost civilization, whose understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering was simply adopted and executed by the ancient Egyptians? Or does it stand as the ultimate testament to the focused power of human ingenuity, proving that with enough will and organization, even the most impossible dreams can be carved into stone? This monument does not simply challenge our timeline, it challenges our very definition of human potential. From this colossal feat of engineering, we now turn our attention to artifacts of an entirely different scale, yet ones that hold a story just as vast. Far from the monumental scale of the pyramids, a mystery unfolds on a much smaller, more intimate level. The story of the Dropa Stones begins in a remote cave in the Bayan Karaula Mountains of China. According to the legend, an archaeological expedition in 1938 stumbled upon a bizarre burial site. Lining the cave walls were hundreds of stone discs, each about the size of a large dinner plate, with a perfectly round hole in the center. At first glance, they appeared to be simple ritual objects, but a closer inspection revealed something extraordinary. A tiny, hair-thin spiral groove was etched into the face of each disc, winding from the outer edge all the way to the center hole. When researchers later magnified this groove, they claimed it was not a decorative pattern at all. It was writing. A continuous line of minuscule, hieroglyphic-like characters was said to be pressed into the stone, telling an incredible story. The translation, as the legend goes, described the Dropa, a people from a distant star system whose spacecraft crashed in the inhospitable mountains thousands of years ago. Unable to repair their ship, they were stranded on Earth, eventually integrating with the local human population. The stones were their recorded history, a desperate message left for posterity. This narrative is, of course, the very definition of controversial. Mainstream archaeology has thoroughly dismissed the Dropa stones. No major museum holds a single disc, and the original discoverer has never been conclusively identified. Most experts believe the entire story is an elaborate hoax, perhaps a misidentification of common by discs, ancient Chinese artifacts used in rituals. Yet the story endures, a persistent whisper in the halls of alternative history. Its power lies not in its likely fictional nature, but in the profound question it raises. What if even one such tale, buried under layers of myth and skepticism, held a tiny, verifiable kernel of truth? This speculative mystery invites us to look at other small, unexplained objects with a fresh perspective, to consider the possibility that our past may be stranger than any fiction we could invent. From a story of potential visitors from the stars, we shift our gaze to a collection of tiny, golden objects whose purpose remains perfectly grounded, yet completely elusive. Buried in a small Mexican town, a collection of clay figurines presents a vision of prehistory that defies all logic. In Acámbaro during the 1940s, a German merchant named Waldemar Jolsrud claimed to have uncovered over 30,000 of these strange artifacts. They were not typical pottery depicting gods or warriors. Instead, they showed humans living side by side with creatures straight out of a paleontology textbook. There are detailed models of stegosaurs with their distinctive back plates, pterodactyls with leathery wings, and tyrannosaurs with gaping jaws, all interacting intimately with human figures. Some statues show people riding these beasts like domesticated animals, while others appear locked in struggle. If these objects were genuine, they would shatter our entire understanding of evolutionary history, placing humanity on the stage millions of years earlier than science allows. Yet the figures feel strangely new. Their surfaces lack the deep patina and mineral deposits you would expect from objects buried for millennia. The circumstances of their discovery are equally suspect, as Jolsrud was said to have paid local farmers for each piece they brought him, a practice that could easily incentivize mass production. For mainstream archaeologists, the evidence points to an elaborate 20th century hoax, a cottage industry of forgeries created to satisfy a wealthy enthusiast. But even if they are fakes, their enduring appeal raises a deeper question. Why does the idea of humans and dinosaurs coexisting hold such a powerful grip on our collective imagination? These figures tap into a profound human desire to connect directly with the most majestic and terrifying creatures to ever walk the earth. They represent a longing for a lost world, a more dramatic past where humanity tested its courage against primordial giants. The Acámbaro collection, whether a deliberate fraud or not, stands as a monument to our need to fill the gaps in the historical record with stories that feel more thrilling, more immediate than the slow, impersonal march of evolution. It is a reminder that the stories we tell about the past are often just as revealing as the facts we uncover. From this controversial collection born of modern desire, we journey to an ancient city whose very stones whisper of a lost architectural genius. The fortress walls of Sacsayhuamán rise above the ancient Inca capital of Cusco like the teeth of a stone giant. You are faced with a puzzle of impossible geometry, where blocks of limestone and diorite, some weighing more than 100 tons, are locked together in a sprawling, zigzagging wall. These are not simple, rectangular bricks. They are massive, irregular polygons, each one a unique shape with multiple interlocking sides, some boasting over 30 distinct angles. The sheer scale is humbling, but the precision is what defies belief. The stones are cut so perfectly that the seams between them have weathered 1,000 years of earthquakes, yet you cannot slide a single piece of paper into the gaps. This is a level of masonry that modern engineers with laser-guided tools would struggle to replicate. The official narrative tells us this was accomplished with stone hammers, bronze chisels, and immense manpower. Yet, when you stand before these walls, that explanation feels profoundly inadequate. How did a culture without the wheel, without iron, without a written language, achieve such a feat? The process of quarrying these behemoths, transporting them across mountainous terrain, and then painstakingly shaping each one to fit its neighbors with microscopic precision, is a logistical nightmare. It suggests a lost method, a technology of softening stone, or perhaps a vibrational technique that allowed the Inca to mold these rocks like clay. The walls of Sacsayhuamán are more than a fortress. They are a library of stone, holding secrets of a construction art we have yet to rediscover. They force us to ask if the true genius of the Inca lay not just in their empire, but in a forgotten science of shaping the very earth. This mastery over immense stone leads us to another enigma, where the precision is not in the joinery, but in the astronomical alignment carved into a solitary, windswept plain. The silent, stoic faces of the Moai gaze inland from the slopes of Easter Island, a remote volcanic speck in the vast Pacific. These monolithic giants, carved from compressed volcanic ash, stand as one of humanity's most ambitious and isolating projects. Nearly 1,000 of these statues were created, with the largest reaching a height of over 30 feet and weighing up to 80 tons. The central enigma has always been one of pure physics. How did a population that likely never exceeded a few thousand people, with no draft animals, no wheels, and only Stone Age tools, move these colossal figures from the quarry to their final ceremonial platforms, some many miles away? The recent theory of walking the Moai offers a startlingly simple, yet brilliant solution. Experiments have shown that with 3 teams of ropes, one on each side and one pulling from the rear for stability, a multi-ton statue can be rocked rhythmically back and forth, creating a shuffling, forward momentum that makes it appear to walk across the landscape. This method is not only plausible but also deeply resonant, transforming an impossible logistical nightmare into a communal, almost ritualistic, dance with the stone. Yet the mystery only deepens from there. Why did this society dedicate such immense effort to this single, overwhelming pursuit? The Moai are believed to represent deified ancestors, their backs to the sea, watching over the living. But the scale of the enterprise seems to have come at a terrible cost. The evidence suggests that the very obsession with carving and transporting these giants led to massive deforestation, as trees were felled for rollers and ropes, which in turn triggered soil erosion and the collapse of their fragile ecosystem. The culture that created these wonders appears to have been consumed by them, leaving behind a silent, treeless landscape and a powerful, cautionary tale. The Moai are more than just statues. They are a physical manifestation of a universal human impulse, the drive to create something that will outlast us, to carve our beliefs and our identity into the very earth, no matter the cost. This monumental drive to communicate through symbols finds a different and far more cryptic expression in a book that has defied understanding for centuries. Within the vaults of the National Library of Sweden rests a book of almost monstrous proportions. The Codex Gigas, more famously known as the Devil's Bible, is the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the entire world. It is so immense that a single page is made from the skin of an entire donkey, and the whole codex is said to have required the hides of 160 animals to complete. Its sheer physical weight is a testament to the monumental effort behind its creation, but its true fame comes from a single, terrifying illustration. On page 290, a full-page, vibrantly colored portrait of the devil glares out from the vellum. He is a monstrous figure, alone in a barren landscape, with claws, horns, and a strange, two-fingered pose. This chilling image gave birth to the legend that has defined the book for centuries. The story goes that a monk, condemned to be walled up alive for breaking his vows, promised to write a book containing all human knowledge in a single night to atone for his sin. As midnight approached, he realized the task was impossible and prayed not to God, but to the fallen angel Lucifer, offering his soul in exchange for completion. The devil finished the manuscript, and the monk, in gratitude, added the portrait of his infernal benefactor. While this tale is a fantastic piece of folklore, the reality of the Codex is perhaps even more compelling. The book contains the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, along with historical works, medical texts, and spells for exorcism. What stuns modern researchers is the handwriting. Analysis of the ink and script reveals a remarkable consistency throughout the massive tome, indicating it was almost certainly the work of a single scribe. The calligraphy shows no signs of the aging, illness, or shifting mood you would expect over a project that should have taken decades. This suggests the monk worked in a frenzy of devotion, or perhaps obsession, for an estimated 20 to 30 years, copying every word in a uniform hand. The psychological drive behind such an undertaking is a profound mystery. Was it a desperate act of penance, as the legend suggests, or was it an attempt by a single, brilliant, and tormented mind to create a complete library in one volume, a one-man ark for knowledge in a precarious world? The Codex Gigas stands at the crossroads of faith and fear, a tangible object where historical fact and enduring folklore become indistinguishable. It proves that our ancestors did not need to invent mysteries about lost civilizations, for they could create them in the here and now with nothing more than ink, vellum, and an unimaginable force of will. This book represents a mystery born from human obsession, but our next artifact presents a puzzle of pure, practical function, an object whose purpose has been completely erased by time. A single, weathered silver coin rests in a museum case, a quiet anomaly that challenges the story of a continent's discovery. Found at a Native American coastal settlement in Maine, this small artifact is a Norse penny dating to the reign of King Olaf Kyrre. minted between 1065 and 1080. That date is crucial. It places this coin squarely within the era of the only confirmed Norse settlement in the Americas, at El Ants Ox Meadows in Newfoundland. Yet this penny was found hundreds of miles to the south, far beyond the known range of Viking exploration. How did a coin from a medieval Norwegian king end up in a pre-Columbian shell midden on the other side of the Atlantic? The most straightforward explanation is also the most revolutionary. It suggests that Norse ships, whether by intent or by storm, ventured further down the North American coastline than our history books have ever recorded. Perhaps they established fleeting trade contacts with the native peoples, exchanging goods and leaving behind this one lost piece of silver. The coin itself is not proof of a settlement, but it is a powerful whisper of contact. Skeptics offer a different, more mundane story. They propose the coin could be a modern loss, dropped by a collector in the 19th or 20th century, and then churned up by archaeologists, mistakenly thought to be part of the ancient site. It is a plausible theory, yet it fails to completely extinguish the flicker of possibility. The Maine Penny embodies the frustrating nature of such enigmatic artifacts. It is a data point of one, too fragile to build a new history upon, yet too compelling to simply ignore. It forces us to hold two contradictory ideas in our minds at once. The official record states that Christopher Columbus was the first European to reconnect the hemispheres in 1492. But this coin, if genuine, tells a different, more complex story of sporadic, earlier encounters that left almost no trace. It is a reminder that history is not a simple timeline, but a tapestry with frayed edges and missing threads, where a single, out-of-place object can hint at entire chapters lost to time. This tantalizing evidence of ancient seafaring finds a strange echo in another object, one that suggests the entire globe might have been mapped long before the great age of exploration. Buried in the Toluca Valley of Mexico, a small terracotta head stares out with the features of a classical Roman senator. Unearthed from a sealed pre-Columbian burial site dating to before the arrival of Columbus, the Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca Head is an artifact that simply does not belong. Its beard, its distinct hairstyle, and the classic toga it wears are all unmistakably Roman in style, characteristic of sculptures from the 2nd century of the Common Era. The problem, of course, is the 1,200 years and an entire ocean that separate those two worlds. How could an object so clearly Old World in design find itself in a grave in the New World, interred centuries before any known European contact? The immediate suspicion is that it must be a hoax, a modern object that somehow slipped into the archaeological layers. Yet, the context of its discovery by professional archaeologists in 1933, found deep within a pyramid foundation that had been sealed for centuries, makes that explanation deeply problematic. The head forces a confrontation between two competing narratives. The traditional story insists the Americas were isolated, a separate stage for human development until 1492. But this artifact whispers of a different possibility, one of sporadic, unrecorded transatlantic voyages. Could a Roman ship, blown wildly off course, have made the perilous crossing? Or perhaps the head is evidence of a longer, more complex chain of cultural exchange, passed from hand to hand across vast distances over generations until it finally came to rest in Mexico. It does not prove a Roman colony, but it does challenge the absolute isolation we so often assign to the ancient world. It suggests the oceans may not have been the impenetrable barriers we imagine, but highways for the occasional lost traveler. This small, silent head asks us to redraw our mental map of antiquity, to include the possibility of faint, forgotten lines connecting civilizations we thought were worlds apart. From this enigmatic face suggesting global connections, we now turn to an artifact that reveals a shocking and precise understanding of the world within the human body. Cut open in 1961, a seemingly ordinary geode revealed a secret that would ignite decades of debate. Inside the solid, ancient rock was a ceramic cylinder with a metal core, an object that looked for all the world like a spark plug from a 20th century engine. This was the Coso Artifact. The stone surrounding it was estimated to be over 500,000 years old, a date that placed its formation long before modern humans even existed. The implications were staggering. Was this a piece of advanced technology from a forgotten civilization, or even evidence of prehistoric extraterrestrial visitors? The story captivated the public imagination, becoming a perfect emblem for the idea that our past is far stranger than we know. Yet the truth, as it often does, turned out to be more mundane but no less instructive. Careful analysis eventually revealed the object was most likely a champion spark plug from the 1920s, a common component in early automobiles. The mystery of its ancient appearance was solved not by alien theories but by geology. The spark plug had been lost or discarded, and over just a few decades had become enveloped in a hard, rock-like concretion of iron oxide and clay minerals. This process can happen surprisingly quickly, creating a shell that mimics a genuine geode and makes a modern object appear impossibly ancient. The story of the Coso Artifact is a crucial lesson in the search for the truth. It highlights how our desire for mystery can sometimes outpace the evidence, and how we often interpret the past through the lens of our own technology. A person in the 1960s saw a spark plug because that was a familiar piece of their world. It teaches us the profound importance of rigorous analysis and healthy skepticism, even in the face of the most exciting and seemingly world-changing discoveries. The challenge is to remain open to the possibility of genuine anomalies while having the discipline to rule out simpler explanations first. This delicate balance between wonder and scrutiny is what separates legend from history. From this modern object masquerading as an ancient relic, we now examine an artifact that is genuinely ancient, yet whose technological sophistication remains just as perplexing. The Saqqara Bird rests in a museum case, a simple artifact carved from sycamore wood over 2,000 years ago. To the untrained eye, it looks like a stylized bird, a common enough offering found in an ancient Egyptian tomb. But look closer and its proportions begin to feel unsettlingly familiar. The wings are not flapping or spread for soaring. They are straight, rigid, and carefully angled, with a distinct dihedral shape that provides inherent stability in the air. The body is sleek and streamlined, lacking the legs of a perched bird, and it features a vertical tail fin, a component that serves no purpose in ornithology, but is absolutely critical for the aerodynamics of a fixed-wing aircraft. This is not merely a child's toy or a ritual object. It is a precisely engineered model, one that seems to capture the fundamental principles of flight. While most Egyptologists maintain it is a representation of a falcon, perhaps a religious symbol, its design has forced a much more provocative question into the open. Could this be a scale model of a working glider? Researchers have even tested replicas in wind tunnels, confirming that the Saqqara Bird does indeed generate lift and possesses remarkably stable gliding characteristics. This single piece of wood pushes us to reconsider the boundary between ancient art and ancient engineering. Were the Egyptians merely brilliant observers of nature, or could they have been experimenters, applying their observations to a science of aerodynamics we never knew they possessed? The idea of a larger, functional glider seems fantastical, but the bird's existence suggests the intellectual framework for such a machine was present. It forces us to look at other ancient depictions not just as symbols of gods or nature, but as potential blueprints for lost technologies, stylized records of a reality we have long since forgotten. This small wooden artifact asks us to consider that the sky above the pharaohs might not have been empty, but a realm of human ambition and perhaps even achievement. From this model of potential flight, our gaze is drawn upward to artifacts that reveal a different kind of celestial knowledge, one etched not in wood but in stone and legend. High on a wall within the sacred temple of Seti I at Abydos, a collection of hieroglyphs seems to show a glimpse of a future that should not exist. Among the traditional symbols of scarabs and gods, there is a shape that looks unmistakably like a modern helicopter, complete with a cockpit and a rotor. Beside it, other carvings bear a striking resemblance to a submarine and even a futuristic aircraft. The precision is so uncanny that it feels intentional, as if the ancient artisans were documenting technology from another era. The scientific explanation, however, is one of layered history, not prophecy. Egyptologists identify this as a palimpsest in stone. The original hieroglyphs carved for Pharaoh Seti I were later partially plastered over and recarved by his son, Ramesses II. Over centuries, the plaster has fallen away, revealing the overlapping symbols from both reigns. The helicopter is not a single, deliberate image, but a chance combination of a carving of a leg, an arm, and other fragments from two different inscriptions, fused together by erosion into a form our modern brains instantly recognize. This phenomenon has a name, pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar patterns, like faces in clouds or animals in constellations, in random data. So, is the Abydos helicopter a mere coincidence, a Rorschach test rendered in stone for the technological age? Or does its existence, however accidental, tap into a deeper, more unsettling question about the nature of time and knowledge? It forces us to confront how easily we project our own world onto the past, seeking validation for our present in the whispers of antiquity. This carving stands at the perfect intersection of rational archaeology and boundless imagination, a reminder that sometimes the greatest mystery is not what the ancients intended to show us, but what we are determined to see. From this intricate puzzle of perception carved into a single temple wall, we are drawn to a mystery of an entirely different magnitude, one not of subtle symbols but of impossible, earth-shifting scale. The sheer scale of human ambition is carved into the very foundations of Baalbek. In Lebanon, the majestic ruins of a Roman temple complex rise toward the sky, but their true mystery lies beneath. The grand columns and ornate altars are a relatively recent addition, built upon a platform of stones so colossal they defy rational understanding. This is the home of the trilithon, 3 perfectly fitted limestone blocks, each one estimated to weigh around 800 tons. To put that into perspective, that is the weight of 2 fully loaded jumbo jets for a single stone. Yet even these are not the largest. Lying nearby in the ancient quarry is the stone of the pregnant woman, a single, partially extracted block measuring over 64 feet long and estimated to weigh more than 1,000 tons. The logistical challenge of moving these megaliths, even with our modern cranes and heavy transport, would be a monumental undertaking. How did an ancient society, using only ropes, wooden rollers, and human labor, achieve this? The Romans themselves left no record of how they moved these stones, and many researchers now believe they did not. The platform predates their arrival. The identity of the original builders is lost to time, a civilization with engineering prowess that seems to rival and in some way surpass our own. What forgotten culture possessed the knowledge and the sheer will to quarry, transport, and lift these mountain-sized blocks into place with such perfect precision? The foundations of Baalbek stand as a silent, humbling monument to a lost chapter in human history, a testament to a level of achievement that remains stubbornly unmatched. From these earthbound giants, we now turn our eyes to the heavens, to an artifact that connects the microscopic world to the cosmic. Buried deep within the sands of a Romanian riverbank, a wedge of metal lay beside the bones of a mastodon, a creature from a world long gone. This is the Aiud Artifact, a heavy, 12-inch-long object composed of an alloy that is 89% aluminum. The date assigned to the layer of earth where it was found is 250,000 years old. This single fact creates a paradox that echoes through time. Aluminum, as we know it, is a modern metal. It does not occur naturally in a pure state and requires a complex industrial process of electrolysis to extract it from its ore, a technology humanity only mastered in the 1880s. For this object to exist in the age when early humans were just beginning to use simple stone tools is an absolute impossibility within our current historical framework. The immediate, rational explanation is that it is a piece of modern machinery, perhaps a tooth from an excavator bucket or a drilling tool, that somehow worked its way down into the ancient strata, contaminating the site. Yet, the thick layer of oxide encasing the artifact suggests it had been there for a very long time, and its discovery alongside unmistakably ancient fossils makes the contamination theory feel, to some, like an uncomfortable fit. This small, heavy wedge forces us to stare into the deepest abyss of historical mystery. If it is genuine, then our entire understanding of human development is not just incomplete, but fundamentally wrong. It would be a fragment, a solitary piece of debris, from a civilization that achieved an industrial age 250,000 years before our own, a culture so advanced and so utterly vanished that it left behind only this one cryptic piece of evidence. The Aiud Artifact is the ultimate question mark, a silent, metallic scream from the depths of time that asks the most profound and unsettling question of all. Are we truly the first, having journeyed through these 25 enigmatic artifacts, from ancient computers and impossible maps to out-of-place metals and submerged cities? A larger pattern begins to emerge, one that challenges the very foundations of our identity. These objects are not merely isolated curiosities. They are scattered pieces of a vast global puzzle. A 2,000-year-old computer suggests a lost thread of technological genius. A battery from antiquity implies a forgotten path of scientific inquiry. A hammer sealed in stone and an aluminum wedge from the Ice Age whisper of timelines that are far more complex and far more mysterious than our textbooks dare to admit. They collectively point to a world where human achievement is not a straight, ascending line, but a cycle of rises and catastrophic falls. They suggest that dark ages can descend, that knowledge can be lost on a civilization-wide scale, and that the story of our past is not a simple narrative of progress, but an epic with missing chapters, written in a language we are only beginning to decipher. This is not about proving the existence of Atlantis or ancient astronauts. It is about recognizing the staggering gaps in our own history. It is about humility. We stand on a mountain of accumulated knowledge, proud of our satellites and smartphones, yet we are surrounded by silent stones and enigmatic artifacts that mock our assumptions. They remind us that the past is not a dead, static thing to be fully catalogued and understood. It is a living, breathing mystery filled with the echoes of lost voices and the ghosts of forgotten triumphs. The true value of these artifacts is not in the answers they provide, for they provide very few. Their power lies in the questions they force us to ask. They compel us to look at the world with wonder again, to question the official story, and to remain open to the possibility that the human journey is older, stranger, and far more incredible than we have ever been taught. Taken together, these scattered clues form a mosaic of profound questions. They do not point to a single, neat alternative history, but to something far more compelling, a human story of staggering complexity. Our comfortable narrative of linear progress, from primitive stone tools to smartphones in a clean, upward climb, begins to crumble under the weight of these anomalies. Instead, we see a landscape of peaks and valleys where brilliant cultures could rise to astonishing heights of engineering and science, only to have their knowledge erased by catastrophe, time, or simply the slow decay of forgetting. This is not a story of ancient astronauts or magic, but one of human ingenuity repeatedly blooming and then being lost, its seeds scattered to the wind. The lesson here is not about finding definitive answers, but about embracing a necessary humility. We must acknowledge the vast, silent gaps in our understanding of the past. These artifacts are a call to remain open, to question the established story with both wonder and a critical eye. History is not a sealed tomb, but a living, breathing field of inquiry where a single shovel strike can overturn everything we thought we knew. So what other secrets lie buried, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? The greatest mystery may not be any one of these objects, but the realization of how much of our own story remains untold, quietly resting just beneath our feet. Our journey through these 25 enigmatic artifacts reveals a profound and humbling truth. The accepted timeline of human history is not an unchangeable absolute, but a framework, a story we have pieced together from the fragments that have survived the relentless passage of time. From the intricate gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the impossible aluminum of the Aiud Artifact, each object we have explored stands as a stubborn reminder that the past is filled with whispers and shadows that defy easy explanation. They are not proof of any single alternative history, but rather evidence of a far more complex and intriguing human story. These puzzles encourage a vital sense of curiosity, a practice of critical thinking, and most importantly, a willingness to question the established narratives we so often take for granted. While not every artifact may ultimately rewrite our textbooks, their collective presence creates a chorus of questions that can no longer be ignored. They demand that we remain open to new possibilities, that we continue to investigate our past with both rigorous skepticism and a sense of boundless wonder. The greatest discovery, the one that could truly reshape our understanding of who we are and where we come from, may still be waiting, buried in the earth or hidden in plain sight. Thank you for exploring these deep mysteries with me. If this journey has sparked your curiosity, consider subscribing for more deep dives into history's greatest puzzles. I would love to hear which of these artifacts you find most compelling, so please share your thoughts in the comments below.